hitting record.
Hello, everybody. I'm Barbara Ilowski, and I'd like to welcome you to our third webinar with OER Commons. Megan Simmons is going to be leading this webinar. I'm really excited that you're joining us, and for those who are watching the recording, I'm really pleased that you'll be watching the recording. The purpose of these webinars is to help faculty and staff and administrators learn how to use OER Commons so that as we create and search for OER materials for our classes and our colleagues' classes, we can find them and we have a place to share. This California Community College Hub centered from a request from faculty who said they wanted a place to share that was both front and back facing, meaning they could upload materials themselves, they could collaborate with others, they could publish when they were ready, and they could search. And most of the other repositories were one-sided. So I'd like to thank the Michelson 20 Million Minds Foundation for funding the California Community College Hub. It's free for all in the OER Commons is a free open platform anyways, but the hub we've created, thanks to the Michelson Foundation funding it, and we've created a group for every college. So you'll see that your college, if you look in the hub, has a group. If you are not yet a member of it, please create your free account and request to be a member. And if you think you should be an admin for your group, by the way, that doesn't mean that your role at your college needs to be an administrator. It means that you're working in a role of OER, or you're a DE coordinator or a librarian or an OER coordinator, then send a request, and Brian Erickson-Kulas, who's on the call, or myself, we can just approve you really easily. With this, I want to thank you for joining, and I'm going to turn it over to Megan now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. All right, I'm going to share some slides with you all today. And I think everybody's been a part of our series here. This is our third in our series for getting you all up to speed and feeling good about the functionality of the hub. Our first session really focused on looking at the functions that support collaboration. So we explored the groups and the group functionalities, and as Barbara mentioned, each of your colleges has their own group, their own space within the hub to share resources, to co-author resources, to have discussions. So that's what we did in the first webinar, was looking at that and how we can best use those features. The second webinar that we had focused on authoring and looking at our authoring tools and tools for remixing, to get you all up to speed on how to start bringing in some of your content or remixing content that's already in the library. And this session is really focused on engagement. So hopefully you've had a chance to get in the hub and use some of the functionalities. And at the end, if you have specific questions, we can go to the live site and explore those. But this session is really focused on engagement. So now that you are familiar with the tools and functionalities, this session is a little different because it's really thinking about, okay, now that we have this wonderful space, how can we get folks engaged and actually using it? Because I think a lot of times people think, you know, if we build it, they will come, but I'm sure many of you are familiar with, you know, some probably failed initiatives that, you know, they created something and folks just didn't go in and use it, and it wasn't successful. So we really want this to be successful. And so we wanted to take some time with you all to really think about and plan for how we can get folks engaged in the hub. So it's going to be a little bit different than our past two sessions. It's way more I would say, engaging, where we really want to hear from you all and your ideas and your thoughts on how you want to spread the word and get folks excited about the hub. So I know a lot of you are muted right now, but please feel free to unmute yourself and share any ideas you have, or build on others' ideas that are sharing. Or of course, you can use the chat feature if that's more comfortable to you. Feel free to do that. So today, here's what we have planned to cover. And as I mentioned, at the end, we can have what we've planned for some time for just any other questions that you all have related to engagement or, you know, just the hub in general. So we're going to start off with, I think, one of the most important things to really get clear on and have some language about, which is communicating your why. Sometimes folks get initiative fatigue, you know, in education and in colleges, where it's like, okay, what's this new thing that we're supposed to do? So I think it's really important to take the time to really think about why this is important and why we want folks to spend some time to do this work and participate. And then we want to spend some time just thinking about indicators for success and how we want to measure success of this project. And we'll share some of our research around what we found has been helpful for rolling out new OER initiatives and to support uptake and adoption. And then we'll spend some time doing a little bit of brainstorming around how we might want to do outreach and engagement, and then identify next steps. So that's a plan for today. And I didn't really introduce myself because I know this is our third session, but for those of you that are new, let me just say quickly, I'm Megan Simmons. I lead training and design at ISKME. I've been at ISKME for 11 years, supporting educators and leaders like yourselves all over the world to do this work. And also my colleague Ahmed is here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Ahmed.
Hi, Megan. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah.
I'm Ahmed Aweda. I helped on producing the hub with all the great team you guys have from with Barbara and Megan. So we're very excited to be doing this training.
And Barbara, I would just like to, I'm glad Ahmed is on now. I'd like to just thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
I really, we owe so much to Ahmed and Megan, and also Mindy, who's not on the call right now, for all of their amazing work. But Ahmed did all of the work to get all of the groups set up, working with Megan, and we're so appreciative. And also, I just wanted for everybody to understand, OER Commons is a product of ISKME. ISKME is the parent nonprofit organization, and OER Commons is something that ISKME produces along with its other work, just to make sure everybody understands.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. So we launched OER Commons back in 2007, and initially it was just really, you know, focused on being a digital library. And over the years, as we work with educators all over the world, and they've, you know, requested more tools for collaboration, we've expanded the digital library to have things like groups and hubs and an authoring tool, so that we can really support what you all are trying to do with OER. And yes, I'm so glad that you all are happy with how the hub looks today. And Ahmed is your guy for really anything, any changes, you know, you want to make to the hub, and he's really been leading the design and production of the hub. So thank you, Ahmed, for all that great work.
Thank you, Megan, so much.
All right. I just saw a question pop up. Can I add people to the hub on my own, or do they have to request access? We'll show you how you can do that. You can do it both ways. You can, if you're an administrator, you can invite people directly to your group, or people can request to join, depending on the group settings. I believe folks need to
Okay.
request to join the groups at this point. But that's something that you can change in your group settings, and I'll put a note to make sure we go through that at the end. Antonio, thanks for that question.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
I have the font. It's Franklin Gothic Medium. I wrote it down.
All right, and I just might mute everyone just so that we don't get any background noise. So if you want to speak, please make sure to unmute yourself. But I just muted everybody so we don't get any background noise. All right. So, you know, a lot of times people talk about the resources and really, you know, just focus on the materials with, you know, why we want to do OER and, you know, save students money and things like that, which is so important. But we always like to also highlight that, you know, when faculty adopt OER, they're really shifting their practice. So we're, you know, kind of moving away from a more, you know, kind of solitary practice to something that's more collaborative, where you're, you know, connected with a lot of other educators. We're really thinking about curation of resources and course material in a new way when we adopt OER. And there's this whole element of instructional design that comes in too, especially when we're really personalizing resources for our unique student population. And then of course there's the whole leadership piece too. So I know it's so exciting to focus on the materials, but we always like to talk about the shift in practice and how we can really expand our networks and our roles in our education communities. And as Barbara mentioned, beyond. So, you know, we're in this hub, we're really focused on California, but our digital library is used globally. So you're having access to resources from all over the world. And when you share, your resources are now accessible to educators all over the world. And just kind of, you know, with that, to think about some design considerations. Of course, we're always thinking about our unique student learning needs and preferences, maybe some new instructional strategies we want to bring into our courses. Of course, now with, you know, in the digital age, we have so much more technology at our fingertips. So do we want to integrate, you know, more games, simulations, things like that into our courseware? And of course, cultural relevance. We have such unique cultures here in California. So thinking of ways that we can bring those into our course materials. I'm going to go through these slides first and to kind of inspire your thinking around engagement. But just to review, you know, we have these tools within the digital library and within your hub for discovery so that you can find resources. Also all these tools, as I mentioned, for collaboration. We haven't spent a ton of time, but we do also have tools on the resources to evaluate them. You can use different rubrics to assess the quality. You can give comments on the resources and star ratings. And for those of you that are really into peer review and peer feedback, that's something at your fingertips too. And then of course, design and remixing tools as well. So we have a lot at our fingertips. And so to think about how we want to evaluate and measure success of this initiative, I wanted to just share, this is a worksheet that we do during some of our road mapping sessions that we do with folks. And it's a way to kind of think about targets and things we might want to reach for in terms of engagement or use of the hub. And so there's things, you know, here around indicators here for, you know, awareness and reach, growth in our collections, the impact on teaching and learning, of course, cost savings and other efficiencies. But I'm curious for you all if you have any success indicators that you're kind of mindful of. I know, especially when you have, you know, grant, you know, a grant that you need to account for, there's, you know, some reporting that needs to be done, but I'm just curious from you all if what you're thinking about for success and things you might want to track for to see if we're actually making an impact here with this work. And you can unmute yourself or chime in the chat. I'm just curious if maybe some of these resonate with you, or maybe there's things on here that we don't have that we should be mindful of when we're thinking of success.
I think, Megan, that different colleges are at different points right now. Some are right at the very beginning stages. And so they're really trying to find OER, open content, and share it with others and decide how to use the platform. And then other colleges are much further along. And I have a feeling that those colleges might not be on the calls on the webinar right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's totally fine too. You know, one thing that we've seen, especially with community colleges that we've worked with around the US, is a lot of folks start, you know, with specific courses that they want to either, you know, shift over completely to OER or start to adopt OER. And we've seen some folks, you know, start with their most high enrollment courses, or, you know, just kind of looking at which subject areas in particular are really kind of ready for something like this. So, you know, it could be something like, you know, thinking about the number of courses that you might want to shift, and measuring, you know, student performance, comparing, you know, before OER and after. So we just kind of like to put this out there for folks to think about, some kind of targets and things you might want to look for as you're rolling out these OER initiatives. And there's some really, you know, quantitative things that we actually track in the hub, which are really, you know, easy to keep track of. You know, things like, you know, number of resources in collections or in groups. You can also track activity in the groups and in the hub, you know, how many resources are being used and saved or shared. So there are ways that you can measure some of those quantitative resource engagements and activities within the hub. And then, you know, some other kind of qualitative things are things you might want to just kind of plan for, you know, getting feedback from your students, or tracking student performance, or, you know, measuring student engagement and things like that. So just wanted to put that out there as something to think about as you're adopting OER and rolling out OER. And if you're interested, this is like a worksheet that we can share with you as well, if this is something you'd like to have for yourself. So some of the things that we've learned along the way, and, you know, in addition to our work with OER, we have, you know, on the tech side, we also have research that we do around knowledge sharing and OER. And I just wanted to share a few insights from our research that we have gleaned from the past few years. And really using this user-centered design approach is something that we have seen be really effective. So as you're rolling out your OER courses, or, you know, leading collaboration with OER in your colleges, making sure that whoever your user is, if it's other faculty or if it's, you know, students, making sure that you have open discussion with them, and that you're getting input from your users to design your courses is something, and roll out your OER is something that we've seen be really helpful. And a lot of initiatives that we've worked with, or projects that we've worked with, have some kind of initial pilot or beta launch. And it's really important to show the impact on teaching and learning through this. So, you know, thinking about those indicators for success, and really demonstrating that, you know, this is a value add to students and educators is something important as well. And as we hear a lot from folks, when there's a new project or something, people always ask, okay, how much time am I going to need to spend on this? And, you know, especially if you're authoring or remixing OER, that can be substantial. So showing a good return on investment for educators is really important as well. Really emphasizing that that the collaborative approach to authoring and content creation is something that we've seen really help with folks getting excited about the projects. You know, a lot of times there aren't a lot of opportunities for folks to collaboratively do this kind of work together. So, you know, having your group space and maybe even having some, you know, in-person collaboration can really get folks excited about the project as well. And we've really, when we first started out, we were doing a lot of work with just kind of individual faculty that were passionate about this work. But what we found over the years is that having cohorts that can support each other at a college or, you know, within a department, and really having a team-based approach to this work is much more sustainable than just individual folks kind of doing this on their own. So those are a few insights that that we've gleaned over the years, and just wanted to share that with you all. And maybe, I know that we're kind of in our initial stages, but so we might not be ready to answer this question, but maybe just something to consider and thinking about as you're you know, thinking about engaging folks in your colleges or beyond. You know, how many users will your OER project impact within the first year? Or maybe you want to think like, you know, within the first semester or quarter. It's up to you. And really thinking about any assumptions that underlie that projection. So, you know, is it that you know that a certain number of courses are going to be adopting OER? So that's really clear, and you're, you know, making some assumptions around engagement or enrollment. So just kind of thinking about that. And, you know, also thinking about any specific plans that you want to roll out to make sure that you reach this level and maybe even beyond. And a lot of times when we're thinking about, you know, the pilot, it's great to kind of, you know, have specific folks that are really, you know, excited to do this work, and there's a lot of learning that can happen in the pilot, but then to think about, okay, how can we expand beyond that pilot to make a bigger impact? So I know that perhaps you're not ready to answer these questions, but just wanted to put those out there to think about, you know, what some of your projections are and assumptions. And as we all know, when we roll out new initiatives, we learn a lot along the way. But if anybody has any thoughts or questions here, we can just have a brief pause here before we move to the next slide. I see Antonio has a question. Is there an exemplary hub that we can look at to see how the hub is being used? Yes, in our previous webinars, we've showed a few hubs, and I'd be happy to share some. One that we have showed in the past is Michigan Community Colleges hub for the state of Michigan. I believe they have close to 30 community colleges there, so it's not as many as in California, but I'd be happy to show you that hub at the end of our call to walk you through how they've structured it and are using it. So, and I know that in the design of the California Community College Hub, Barbara and her team have, you know, looked at what other folks have done as well. Oh yeah, and yeah, within our hub, Skyline Community College is a group that we've done some OER work with. So if you're looking for groups within our hub that have started to do this work, they're a great one too. So I'll be sure to show, just to point out Skyline. And yeah, and just to be clear, so a hub is like, we have our own California Community College hub, And within our hub, we have groups, and Skyline College is one of those groups within our hub. And Michigan Community Colleges also has a hub, so they have groups for their colleges there as well. All right, so one thing around communication, I know when we're thinking about engagement, a lot of it is, you know, kind of all the different channels of communication that we have access to, and how we want to, you know, best target and communicate, you know, the value add here and what we're inviting folks to do. So we really have kind of simplified our kind of marketing or outreach with these 3 considerations. And I just wanted to share this with you all because I know that you have many different ways that you can communicate with folks and invite them to participate and things like that. So here are 3 things to think about. The first one is the content of your outreach. So, you know, what specifically you want to share. Is it, you know, a link to your group within the hub? Is it a specific, you know, resource link you want to share? Is it just the hub in general? Do you want to share any images, any specific resources to highlight, videos, things like that? Also the method, so thinking about how you'll share. Is it, you know, through social media, blogs, maybe an in-person or virtual presentation, some kind of announcement? So thinking of the different communication channels that you all have, so how you'll share that. And then this is really important this is something that friends that work in marketing, they always really enforce that, you know, it's great to be informative, but it's also great to have some kind of call to action when you're doing outreach. So thinking about, you know, what action you hope folks will take as a result of your outreach. So is it that you're hoping that they'll join the group and start to curate resources in the group? Maybe the call to action is you want them to take a look at some of the resources that you've started to curate for a particular subject area. Maybe you're asking them to start authoring or remixing. So thinking about that. Adding a link to your college website, that's great as well. Antonio, I'm not, we can maybe have a conversation offline, but in terms of how exactly you do that, we can look at your website with you. But yeah, certainly you can put a link to the hub or your group on your college website for sure. Are there any particular things coming up, any events or conferences or presentations or things like that that maybe we should have on our radar that would be a good opportunity to do some outreach and engagement? I'm just curious from you all if there's anything on your radar. One great way for those of you that are involved in Twitter, there's quite a large OER Twitter community as well. So, you know, using hashtags like OER or open textbooks can be a great way to connect with other folks or you know, reach out to folks through social media.
Hi, this is Iris from Modesto Junior College. Can you hear me?
Iris. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One thing we do is we use Canvas for LMS, so we can certainly do announcements in Canvas. And our OER coordinator has started a 3-week OER online class for faculty. And so we're thinking now we're going to use that class as a way to push out and introduce our group. So the people go through that class and then they can start adding to the group.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we do have LTI integration with Canvas, so we can help you set that up so that if you're interested in having easy integration with your LMS, we have that capability with groups and in the hub. So
Megan, would the faculty still need to make it? This is Barbara. Would the faculty still need to make an OER Commons account?
Well, they would join our group.
Right, but they still need just on OER Commons just to have, everybody just needs to set up, and I guess I'm asking Mindy, everybody just needs to set up their own login, right? First in order to do that. So,
yes, Barbara, they would need to have their own username and password.
So I love the fact of pushing this out on Canvas, but maybe one of the first things to do is show people where to create their own free account. So
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off. But that brings up a really good point, because one thing we've been struggling with. So I really want to use the group because I love that your librarians do some evaluation of sources before they're put on, which will really help. I'm a librarian, so that would really help save local librarians time. But it seems a little clunky for individual faculty, the process of getting their resources in OER Commons so that they can then save them to our group seems a little clunky for faculty who may not be, really gung-ho about it. So what I'm thinking is maybe have everybody send their resources to me, and I can go through the process of submitting them to OER Commons and then saving them to our group. Has there been any discussion about the best process for getting shared resources into your group?
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because we have seen that other folks have, or other librarians have taken that that task on for faculty as well.
Well, Skyline does. Skyline doesn't. I talked to one of their coordinator, and she was saying they don't really use the hub so heavily because it's time consuming for faculty to have to do that. But to me, it's going to save librarians a ton of time if your librarians are going through and evaluating before they agree to put them on the Commons.
Yeah, and we definitely have seen librarians lead that work, and at least in the beginning too, to kind of get folks excited. So that's definitely something that we've seen other colleges do. And yeah, let me just show quickly. So here on hubs, here's where we have all of our hubs, and this is growing all the time. You can see California is here, but I mentioned Michigan, and I know in past webinars we've explored Michigan, but what you're describing is exactly what one of the librarians did at Lansing Community College. And what the librarian did was she just started to do some curation so that she could show her faculty what was out there. So she started by creating some folders within their group with, first she just started with their high enrollment courses and started to do some curation, just, bringing in resources. And then as, folks started, using the resources and could see, okay, there's, we don't have to recreate the wheel. There's some great stuff here. Some of her faculty actually identified some niche areas where there weren't resources and actually did some authoring of their own. So I showed this before, but this is one of her faculty, Mark Kelland. He created this Tao of Positive Psychology resource here and shared it in here. So I think it's great to, especially, with kind of the shift in the role of the librarian in the digital age. Librarians can be really wonderful advocates, and we've definitely seen it on community college campuses all over, to really, start to do some curation to get folks excited, and then really help, and maybe a little bit of hand holding with some initial authoring or remixing. So I think that's a great way to go. And you can see here I just clicked on the psychology and sociology folder, but we have the OpenStax textbook in here. There's some things from NOBA psychology. So there's some good stuff in here that she pulled from our library. And then there's some things that this faculty member, Mark Kelland, started to author and share. And as I mentioned before, I found out about this because Skyline Community College started using Mark's psychology resources, and they were so happy. So it's kind of neat to see how this one faculty in Michigan has his work is now being used in California as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to emphasize, this is Barbara, I just wanted to emphasize that each college can make its own decision about whether the faculty upload themselves or the admins are the ones who upload. And so it doesn't need to be a blanket decision. And also I wanted to bring in the point of what Megan was saying about Michigan, is that let's just say you weren't Skyline, you were another college, and you wanted to download those same psych materials. Well, you can bring them into your college's site so that you don't have to each time go out to Michigan. You just import them in. That's the beauty of the Creative Commons license. And I think that's the beauty of having things tagged correctly, is that because of the tags, you can find it and then you just import it onto your own college site so your faculty don't have to go out and search.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we mentioned Skyline, so I'll just show here because we have them alphabetically. We have over 100 colleges here, so more than Michigan. But yeah, if you're interested in looking at some of the work that Skyline has done, they kind of, took a similar approach where they identified some of the courses that were kind of ready for this. And interestingly enough, respiratory care was one of their departments that really wanted to adopt OER. So you can see they have quite a few resources in their group there. But yeah, so, kind of, I would say for those of you just kind of getting started, one kind of pathway that we see folks do is just starting to determine kind of what resources you want to start to curate or organize for your college. And it could just be working with one particular department or a group of faculty, and starting there, and you can start to save resources to your group and start to organize in that way. And then as folks kind of see what's out there and maybe think about, okay, what do I have that could be helpful to enhance our courseware, they can start to do some authoring or remixing. So I see a question about the group. So we actually have already done a webinar on that, and so that's available for you in the hub. So for those of you that haven't been a part of our previous webinars, you're welcome to catch up on how to use groups and things like that in our where did we put the webinars?
Down in tools and templates.
Oh, okay, sorry, tools and templates.
It's the end of so we first have general ones to help people, and then we have our 2 webinars that we did.
Great, yeah. So yeah, under tools and templates here, this one, hub and group admin webinar, this is something that we did back in May. So you can click on this to get up to speed on the hub and group admin functionality. So if you're interested in learning about groups. And then the second one here is, or the last one here is all about authoring. So, so that's what we have there. And I'm just trying to think of other, for Ahmed, is there anything you want to say about LTI integration for folks to, for people that are using Canvas or other LMS to get them up to speed there?
Not really. We could organize with Michelle another training on LTI. I'm not sure. I don't think we did this, Barbara. We had any discussion with Michelle on that, right?
No, we never discussed the LTI integration with Canvas because I didn't think to ask about it.
Right.
That's a really great point, especially for the faculty sites. And maybe you and I can work offline on get it set and whether we need to have a full webinar, or we can put together a little tutorial and then just post it and send it out.
Yes, so we have a few tutorials that I could send to you, and then let's have this. This is great. Let's have this discussion and see if we still need to make a training for some of the folks, and we'll be happy to.
And we could customize it, and that would be fine. Yeah.
Definitely. Sounds good.
Are there any other questions just while we're on the live site here? These have all been great. And sorry, I just kind of assumed everyone had been a part of all the other webinars. So yeah, I'm glad that we showed everybody how to find the previous ones. So if you missed any, you can get up to speed there. But any other questions just while we're on the live site here?
So there's one question around the group adding, Megan.
Oh yeah.
From Shagun, and I think we could show them. So do you want to go through this from the settings?
Yeah. So I just clicked on the first one, Alan Hancock. So
Okay.
I'll whatever I do in here, Alan Hancock College, I'll make sure to to delete. But when you find your group, you can, this green bar will say, request to join this group, if so you can join it, and basically the group admin will need to approve you. Or if you're a group admin and you want to start to invite people, you can do that under manage group. And here you can, add other group administrators. Like here we have 3 admin for this group, so you can add different people's emails. And so a group administrator is really, the leader of this group. They'll be in charge of approving members. And they can, make edits to the look and feel of the group at any time. And if you're interested in inviting folks directly through the group, you can do that through membership control. So here's where we have the settings where I think all of the groups need approval. And here you can put in people's emails that you'd like to invite directly. So when you put in somebody's email, and you can put in up to 25 a day, you can send them an invitation and they'll get an email from the group with a link to the group. So it'll point them directly where to go.
Megan, hi, this is Shagun. Thank you, Emma, for bringing that question. Actually, I am already an administrator. My question was, for example, you showed Skylines College's wonderful work. If I wanted to grab some of that and populate my group, is that possible? Is there possibility of working with another college's group and kind of collaborating and sharing resources?
You mean to take resources from Skyline and put them in your group?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the way that you can bring resources into your group is you need to save them. So you can do that kind of resource by resource. So there's not like at least not that I'm aware of. I don't know, maybe Ahmed, of some cool shortcut here, but let's say, I like this biology resource. The way that I could bring that into my group is I would have to click save, and then add it to a folder in my group, or to my group in general. So I don't know of
Yes, that's
a
the
way
only
to
way.
do it bulk way, but that's how you can do it, kind of resource by resource.
And I've done that actually. So with mathematics, on the home page, we have all the college groups. We have the 114. We don't have the last college, Calbright, in yet. We have the 114 colleges. Then below that, we have 3 groups that we call advocacy. One is a student group that's working together on building materials. The other one is just to put up publications. And the third one is a mathematics group. And we put materials, thanks. So if you go down to, go down below that, you'll see, whoops, right there, the mathematics group. And there was content in there that I wanted, actually my colleague Lenore wanted to bring into Deanza's site. So she clicked on what she had there, and then she brought that, I think one was the Getting Started with Math OER, and then she put some in there, but she also wanted them to go to Deanza so that the Deanza math faculty could find them easily. And so she just clicked on them and imported them into the Deanza folder of mathematics. And it was really really quickly that it could be done. The other thing is, I just wanted to address Shagun's comment. I think I'm not understanding about your question about Creative Commons licensing and attribution. So maybe could you explain it and Megan could answer it?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to take a lot of your time because I know you have. All I wanted to know was, so I tried to mix a communication book using the group function, and I got a little stuck in trying to figure out how I could add attributions and make sure that the licensing on it was correct. So I think this is, I guess, a more OER Commons question and not so much a hub question in terms of, I know that we have the ability to remix and share, but I was getting stuck with trying to figure out my accessibility and attribution stuff. And that's where I kind of hit a blank wall because I couldn't quite figure out how to do it through your authoring tool. But I know you have a webinar.
Okay, I have a really, it's, you don't actually have to worry about that because it automatically attributes. So, that's so nice that you were thinking about that, but when you use our remixing tool, it automatically gives attribution to the original author. So just to clarify, so if let's say I'm just going to go to Mark's resource here in Michigan. So let's say I wanted to remix Mark's one of Mark's resources that he created in our authoring tool. So I'm just, looking here at, oh wait, let me go back. So this Tao of Positive Psychology is something that he created in our authoring tool. And when you click on it, as long as he's set the permissions here, so this was created in our authoring tool. When I click remix this resource, it automatically makes a copy of this resource, and it gives him attribution when I publish it. So, and actually Mark will get an update letting him know that somebody has remixed his resource. So if you're using our authoring tool, you don't have to worry about that. The licensing is automatically, the attribution's already automatically given and a link to the original resource.
If the original resource is in OER Commons to begin with.
This is through our authoring tool. If you're doing remixing, not in our authoring tool, that's not as easy as just clicking a button. You have to see what the original licensing is, and just make sure that you give attribution to the original author.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Yeah,
no problem. Thanks for the question. Yeah, we wanted to make remix really easy because we think it's one of the most interesting things of OER. So in our authoring tool, it's pretty, intuitive and easy, but if you're kind of pulling from different resources, you do need to spend some time just making sure that you're clear on what licensing the resources that you're pulling from in your remix have, and to give attribution, which basically means just, give credit to the original author. These are great questions. I know we have a few more minutes. I can go back to my slides. We were kind of talking about, communication, and there are some, I know, like Skyline, for example, has done some great events on their college for Open Education Week, and there's some great student advocacy outreach and presentations that folks have been doing as well. So it's always good just to kind of have those on your radar as you're, thinking about how to get the word out so that folks can be a part of this community. Just, one kind of thing, and I know what some of you aren't quite here yet, but as you're rolling out a new initiative, and this was something in particular with Skyline that we, really had to kind of take some time to think about, was just any kind of gaps or needs that we needed to address. So any tools or content or systems that might be affected by adopting OER. And in Skyline's case, it seemed like there were some departments that were more ready than others to do this. There were past kind of workflows and ways that people shared that were kind of shifting. So just making sure that we kind of understood like what the changes were, and what we might need to address that'll be impacted by this new way of collaborating and sharing. Also just thinking about instructional practices or programs or initiatives or policies that might be affected. I know a lot of colleges have adopted like a zero textbook or no cost textbook policies, or even indicators on your course material. So, thinking about kind of other initiatives that are complementary or things that we want to, be considerate of as we're rolling out this work. And then also just, you might realize, oh gosh, we need more staff and resources to be able to do this well. So, for those of you that are maybe haven't yet connected with your librarian on campus, thinking about reaching out to them and having them be involved. They can be your biggest allies. Also thinking about, involving bookstore or your, printer, your on-campus, printing services for folks that might want to, print out materials or things like that. Just kind of thinking of who might need to be in the loop as you're rolling this work out. So we always like to put that up there too, just to have some kind of a pause to think about who we might want to connect with. And I'm just curious from folks on the call if anything comes to mind related to these questions in terms of, things that might be impacted or affected, or folks that you want to, bring in to help roll out this work.
Hi, this is Iris again from Modesto Junior College. We're also working closely with our academic senate to help us promote it through the Senate.
Oh, great. Wonderful. All right. So, one thing to think about, I know some immediate next steps are maybe folks will catch up on some of the other webinars, or, spend some time in the group, maybe starting to do some curation or authoring work. But, typically we see folks kind of do like a beta or a pilot launch before they do a big public launch. So I'm just curious from folks if you have any thoughts around next steps that you're going to take after the call today to help move this work forward. Oh, and that's great. So Shagun is doing some organization for communication studies courses at De Anza. That's great. Wonderful. Iris is going to start populating the group. Great. So I just wanted to put our contact information on here as well. So I think, you know, we put a lot of things to think about in terms of engagement and rolling out this work today. So sorry if we overwhelmed you, but we do, you know, want to kind of help you kind of think about the next steps and you know, how to make this work successful. So I have our Ahmed and my contact information here. It's just our first names at iscme.org. And Ahmed is really your guy for, you know, the hub, on the hub production side. So, you know, if you have, you know, questions about specific functionalities of the hub or design of the hub, he's your guy. And, you know, for me, if you'd like to, you know, kind of brainstorm ideas around training or outreach, or just, you know, kind of learn more about what other hubs have done, or have, you know, questions related to training and outreach, you can reach out to me. And I know, you know, Barbara's available too, and Ryan. So there's a lot of folks here that really want this to be successful and give you support. So please don't be shy in reaching out and letting us know what questions you have or what you need, and we'll be sure to help you out. So yeah, we're really excited to see what y'all do with these tools.
And I would also like to really, you know, encourage you to share what you're doing, and to work with each other's, to reach out to me or to Ryan. And I especially want to thank Megan and Ahmed for today's webinar, and again for Michelson Foundation for the funding for doing all of this.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll be in touch. So let us know what you need and how we can help. And we really look forward to seeing all the great work you do. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye.